Today's the day, drywall's going up. This week we have a drywall crew coming in to drywall our entire house in just 5 days. Drywalling is a really tough job, especially because the sheets are heavy, and then mudding and taping is so technical, and if you do it wrong, your walls and ceilings are gonna look horrible. And that's why we brought in the professionals.
There are 3 phases to drywalling: hanging the drywall, mudding and taping the drywall, and sanding the drywall.
Phase 1, hanging the drywall.
All right guys, drywall's going up. It's a big day today. We have about 5 guys helping us out. It's only been a few hours and you can already see the ceilings are already up. Kind of crazy to watch this whole process unveil.
These guys are speed demons. There's no way that we'd be able to get it done as fast as them. Done by tomorrow. So this is Tuesday. They're gonna be done by Wednesday tomorrow.
So these guys can get this done in 2 days, and based off our insulation timing, I'd say...
It wasn't that slow.
It was pretty slow. It took us almost 2 weeks, so we're gonna leave that to the professionals. And plus we're trying to move in before we get married.
We need that.
Yeah, we need that timing.
Here are the tools you will need to hang the drywall if you are doing this yourself. All right, time to move on to step 1.
We just have a lot of crap in the garage, a lot of leftovers, so I'm moving that out of here because we are gonna be drywalling the walls and the ceiling, so they need everything cleared out. Last minute task for us, but we'll get it done before they're ready.
Along with the cleaning, we need to make sure that none of the insulation is in the way of the studs. We made sure to staple these pieces in before our insulation inspection. The last part is to make sure that there are no nails sticking out of the studs because this will show through the drywall.
If you're hanging the drywall yourself, you'll want to start with the ceiling because the walls will come second and these will act as supports for the ceiling.
2 of the crew members started in the master bedroom. We have a step ceiling, so they started around the perimeter and made their way in.
The guys marked out the light cans or the recessed lights in the ceiling, and then they used a roto-zip to cut them out in the drywall. You can already see the step in our ceiling in our master bedroom. Looks amazing.
This crew will not be drywalling in the showers because we're gonna come in and put a cement board in there when we're ready for the tiling because a cement board is waterproof and for wet areas.
On the other side of the house, we have the other crew members working on the guest bedrooms.
They finished the ceilings in both bedrooms and bathroom, and now they're moving on to the walls.
On this back wall, they're using 4x12 sheets of drywall, and then once they're both hung, they'll cut out the doorway to the bathroom.
On the next wall, they start out by placing drywall glue on all of the studs.
Next, he measures out the drywall to the right length, then he scores it with a knife, gives it a little bend, and it snaps right off.
Now it's time to put the sheet into place. You always want to start from the top to the bottom so you have a tight joint at the ceiling.
Plus, the baseboard will hide any gap between the wall and the floor.
Once the sheet is in place, it's time to screw it into the studs. As the guys continue to place the sheets and cover the studs, the guys will mark out the spots where the studs are so they know where to screw it in.
Next, they measure out the adjacent area and continue the process over and over.
Always put the scored side or the imperfect side tight to the wall so you won't see it on any openings like a doorway. Once the drywall is hung, the doorways can be cut out using a drywall saw.
For the bottom piece, they use a kicker. It's a small tool that slides under the drywall that they step on, and it lifts the drywall up and puts it right into place so that they can screw it in.
They repeat this process for the remaining wall and the other bedroom.
So the first guest bedroom off the garage is pretty much done, which is crazy. They still have to cut out the door to the bathroom, but it's wild. Then the guys move to the living room and the stairs area. They only have to do the walls over here because we'll be adding tongue and groove to the cathedral ceiling.
The guys called me over because they noticed that we might need a little bit more insulation in between the windows, so I went over and put that in while we had the scaffolding. Once that was complete, they were good to go.
At the same time, the other guys were working on the step ceiling in our kitchen. There's a lot of commotion going on in this one centralized area.
While the guys were working over in the main room, I had to hurry up over to the laundry room and get my butt over there to put in the soft close for the pocket door, because if the drywall goes on before then, we're never gonna have a soft close. Only gonna be hard.
Gotta have one of those.
trying to install this soft close pocket door, watching YouTube while making a YouTube video. No, that's meta. You know, YouTube just is just so much better than reading like a manual. I was reading the manual, I had no idea what was going on. I watched the YouTube video, I'm like, oh, got it. So you go in, the door goes in, and then it just moves out.
Wow.
That was pretty simple. We just have to do the rest of the hardware later when we're actually hanging the door.
Another last chance opportunity is this dormer window that's above the garage, because drywall will be going up in the ceiling of the garage. So this is our last chance to get in there, foam it up, and put some decorative screening on.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
Okay, I gotta seal this dormer window above our garage, and we're also gonna put this black screen behind it so you can't see the wood and it will look dark like it's part of something instead of just looking at wood.
We just used a roll of screen that you could buy at any hardware store. Over the next day and a half, the guys finished hanging all the drywall. After 2 full days of hanging the drywall, it's time to move on to taping and mudding.
Hanging is definitely a difficult task, but really the professionalism that separates the men from the boys, us
Or
being
women.
the boys and women, is the mudding and the sanding. These next 2 steps, this is where it really makes the job look really nice. And I think people that are amateurs like us will fail to do it perfectly. And that's why you want to hire professionals. The reason why you have taping and mudding is it covers up any seams in the drywall, any imperfections, any nail holes, and after you're done sanding the mud, it will have a perfect smooth surface so it's ready to paint. The main thing I'm trying to get at here is know when to hire the professionals and let the professionals do their job. You'll be happy that you didn't do it yourself and try to save a little bit extra cash because your house will be looking that much better.
Now let's get into the tools you will need for this phase. Joint compounder mud, drywall paper tape, corner bead, taping knives, drywall mud pan, mud mixer, taping reel or banjo, buckets, and step stool.
Traditionally, the first step to taping and mudding is putting on a thin layer of mud on all the seams, which is called bed coating. Then you would add the tape on top of it.
But in order to be more efficient, our guys are using a tape reel or a band reel. This allows you to combine the tape with the mud to eliminate that extra step.
You can see the tape is covered in the mud, which helps it adhere to the drywall.
Tape will also be placed over any imperfection or seams like screws or piping.
Once all the tape is up, then another thin layer of mud is added on top of the tape using a taping knife in order to smooth out the tape and remove any excess mud. This is called the block coat.
After the ceiling and the walls are taped in mud, it's left overnight to dry. The next day, the taped areas will be slightly sanded to remove any bumps, and then a thin layer of mud, which is the last layer, will be added on. The taping and mudding process takes about 2 days to complete.
So now you can see the house has been fully taped and mudded. Now the next step is sanding. Once the mud dries overnight, it needs a deep sanding to make sure it's as smooth as possible and ready to be painted.
Here are the tools you will need to sand the drywall: stilts, pole sander, hand sander, mask, and goggles.
The guys pulled out the stilts to make sure that they could reach the high points of the walls. It's like a circus in there. It may be obvious, but instead of putting ladders, it allows these guys to work and be mobile and get to the spots fairly quickly without having to drag the ladder around. They got one guy up, they got one guy down.
So you can see the dust is everywhere. The guys are covered in it. So we'll definitely have to do some major cleanup. Out of all 3 steps of drywalling, I would say this one is probably the worst. I think we need to lend them our hazmat suits and our masks. And after a full day of drywalling, the 3rd stage is complete, which means we have a fully drywalled house.
Let's go. Now that the drywall's up, you can get a really good understanding of what our house looks like. So in the next video, we're gonna give you a full tour and the layout of our home and maybe some of the design things that we wanna put in those certain places.
So make sure to subscribe. Sorry I ruined it. That was great.
So
See you in the next one.